In the previous chapter, we saw Jack Hanma unleash a series of rapid and powerful attacks against Pickle, who surprisingly shows no signs of pain or anger. Instead, he seems to enjoy every moment of the fight. Jack, determined not to give him any respite, throws a punch with impressive speed, followed by a front kick that should have knocked down the caveman. Despite the strength of the attacks, Pickle remains standing with an expression of excitement, as if inviting Jack to continue the action. Amid the battle, Pickle recalls his life in prehistoric times when he hunted enormous and ferocious creatures. To him, Jack, though powerful, doesn't represent a greater threat than the monsters he faced in his era. Those beasts possessed claws and teeth larger and stronger than any creature of this age. Clearly, there was no reason to worry. Jack, aware that brute force isn't enough, decides to utilize modern techniques. With a swift movement, he grabs Pickle by the hair and slams him to the ground with a German suplex, leaving the audience astonished by the cyborg's combination of speed and technique. Baki watches attentively from the stands at his brother's abilities. Mitsunari and Hanayama also observe from the box seats. It was surprising to see two such heavy individuals moving at that speed. After so many attacks, Pickle finally falls to the ground, visibly affected by the blow, something that seemed impossible until that moment. Jack seizes the opportunity to position himself over Pickle and deliver one of his most powerful punches. The caveman was disoriented and offered no resistance. Everything seemed to indicate that Jack had victory in his hands. That's how the previous chapter ended. This week's chapter begins with an in-depth explanation of the most powerful hand strikes in martial arts. Here we see two practitioners from different disciplines preparing their hand attacks. The question arises, what is the most powerful punch or technique that can be executed with the hand? First, the technique of the Seiken, which is the straight fist punch, is considered. However, the analysis continues, and the following panels dismiss different strikes, such as the knife hand, also known as shutho, and the extended finger thrust, known as nukith. While both are exceptional techniques, the reality is that neither is the most powerful. The answer to this question lies in the hammer blow, a technique where the closed fist strikes downward, using the base of the fist, similar to the impact of a hammer. It's emphasized how this blow, named for its resemblance to a hammer, generates force and momentum, capable of smashing even rocks. The strength and impact of this strike are well known and documented, reinforcing the devastating effectiveness of the hammer blow in combat. Even masters of Chinese Kenpo have mastered it. In reality, it's not a difficult strike to execute. However, its effectiveness depends on how much force and speed the user can apply. Thus, the answer is clear. The most devastating strike is the hammer, a technique that channels all the arm's power into a single impact. Comparing it to the force of a real steel hammer, capable of generating force and momentum, well documented for its destructive capacity. The scene transitions to the battle, where Jack is dominating the situation. On the ground lies Pickle, whom Jack controls with apparent ease. With his fist closed, Jack prepares his hammer blow, loading strength into his arm and directing his fist toward the ground with impressive force. Pickle shows no emotion as Jack's fist descends upon him. The spectators react with astonishment upon seeing the power of the strike. Some assume this was the end of the encounter. Pickle's body is shaken by the force of the impact, and it's here where the effectiveness of the hammer blow is demonstrated. This explosive technique has been pushed to the limit by Jack, who continues to dominate the scene with his colossal strength, proving that it's a perfect technique for his power and anatomy. The crowd watches in amazement at the magnitude of the attacks in the combat. Pickle's face, even after being struck, shows a strange serenity. His eyes seem focused on something beyond the battle, as if his thoughts are elsewhere. Suddenly, Jack's mouth opens, revealing his sharp and gleaming teeth. Pickle sees those shining fangs coming ever closer. In a swift movement, Jack launches a powerful bite at his opponent. The impact is immediate. His bite is direct and forceful. Jack's teeth sink into his adversary, and naturally, everyone is in shock. The result is a grimace of pain and surprise from Pickle, while the spectators watch in astonishment at the unexpected development of such an unorthodox tactic. As expected, this attack caused great damage to the caveman. The collective amazement of the audience is reflected in a series of expressions of emotion and bewilderment. Jack seemed proud of his action, as if he had finally completed his revenge. Let's remember that Pickle did the same to him in the past. In the world of combat, This would be an eye for an eye. Being a proud fighter, Jack wanted to return this pain to Pickle. The tension in the combat increases when Pickle finally opens his eyes and fixes his gaze with an expression of pain. His face, marked by the fight, highlights the damage he has endured so far. Despite the physical exhaustion, Pickle shows his wild nature and is still willing to continue the fight like a true warrior. Baki and Hanayama were in shock at how the situation was unfolding. Neither of them had received such an attack, but they knew the pain must be indescribable. Baki knew the power of his brother's bite and realized that this was only the beginning. Hanayama had also suffered similar injuries but couldn't imagine the pain Pickle must be feeling at that moment. In the next panel, we see Pickle in shock, still unable to process what has happened. He manages to sit on the ground but seems not to comprehend what Jack has done. Perhaps the speed of the attack or the adrenaline prevented him from registering the damage. He just sits there, staring at the ground. After a few seconds, Pickle regains consciousness and fixes his gaze on Jack. The caveman rises with his jaws open, as if he's about to unleash all his fury with those sharp fangs. When Pickle launches his attack, Jack surprises him with unexpected speed. He responds with a quick and powerful kick, anticipating his opponent's counterattack. The impact is devastating, and we see how Jack's leg strikes forcefully, deflecting Pickle's attack in an instant. The crash echoed throughout the Colosseum, and a powerful light illuminated the arena. The audience, who had anticipated that Pickle would have the advantage, is in shock to see how Jack overcomes the caveman's strength with cunning and speed. Jack's kick made Pickle step back and knocked him down for the second time. Everything seemed to indicate that Jack had the victory secured. The camera focuses on Pickle's face, who grimaces in pain after receiving Jack Hanma's attack. This was an image that personified the brutality and wild nature of the combat. That's how this incredible chapter ends. While this chapter was truly impactful, I'd say we haven't seen anything like this since the Musashi arc. The detailed explanation about the hammer blow was very interesting, or perhaps boring for some, but it allowed us to understand why this technique is so powerful and how Jack uses it to his advantage in the fight against Pickle. Jack has demonstrated not only his brute strength but also his intelligence by using techniques that maximize his power. The hammer blow was executed impeccably, and seeing Pickle receive it without showing any emotion was really surprising. The biggest surprise came when Jack decided to use his bite against Pickle. This shows that Jack is willing to do anything to win, even resorting to tactics that could be considered dirty. Moreover, this act has a special meaning, as it's a way to get revenge for what Pickle did to him in the past. It's as if Jack is telling Pickle that now they're even. Pickle's reaction was very interesting. At first, he seemed not to understand what had happened, but then he shows his true wild nature by attempting to counterattack with his own fangs. However, Jack again demonstrates his tactical superiority by anticipating the attack and responding with a devastating kick that leaves Pickle on the ground for the second time. But anyway, despite the blows he's received, we know that Pickle is capable of surprising us at any moment. We all want to see when he activates his berserker mode. For the next chapter, I think we might see Pickle entering a more aggressive state. Jack's bite could have awakened something in him, and it's possible that we'll see Pickle using all his power and primitive abilities to counterattack. Overall, this chapter was exciting and maintained the level of intensity we've seen in the previous ones. It seems that next week there won't be a break, so we won't have to wait long for the next chapter. And well, friends, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked it. I hope you have a nice day or night. See you soon.